Anyway, thank you all for coming. This is a fabulous turnout for our meeting tonight. And of course, this is our election victory rally with Eleanor and some fabulous guests that we've got. And I think the first thing to say is, didn't we do well? I think that goes to the general election nationally, where our brilliant top team, including Jeremy and Emily and the star of the show, the election manifesto, turned around all the Tory lies and gave us a fantastic result on election night. And of course, we did do rather well, and my comrades here did rather well with us in Wolverhampton South West. On that note, of course, with the Tories are on the run. We kicked their backsides in the election, and they have been stumbling from chaos to chaos. So we're obviously looking for another general election in the next 6 to 12 months. Did you see that look? Thank you. So we need to replenish our funds. So I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it a few more times tonight. If you see a silver bucket, then dig into your pockets. I know a few of you have got notes in your pockets. So let's fill up the coffers of Wolverhampton South West so that we can get Eleanor re-elected at the next election. We'll have a fabulous new Foreign Secretary, and we'll have Jeremy Corbyn as our next Prime Minister. Okay, before we kick off, I want to do, for me, a special thanks around the election campaign. There was aside from our star on the rostrum, there was one person who really stood out, has helped the campaign through some quite difficult times. For me, he's a sort of a figure, a sort of cross between Nelson Mandela, 007, and Hardeep Singh Kohli. Only he's more charming, better organised, and slightly and definitely better dressed, and slightly more dangerous than all three of them put together. And the man who accidentally turned up as being Eleanor's election manager, and that's Councillor Bhupinder Gakal, who is an absolute star. I believe he does good rates on organising weddings and stuff like that. Okay, so the format tonight, I will hand over to Eleanor in a second as our host tonight. Excuse me, this has all been planned. They do like to take over the MPs. We need a bit of democratic control, keep them in order, that's what I say. Remember, we will get that deselection. We'll then move on to Roger McKenzie from Unison, and Emily Thornberry. We will then have a little bit of a Q&A if we've got time, and some closing remarks from Ella to finish our evening. Our host tonight, Eleanor Smith.
Yes, thank you all very much. I'm seeing faces that help and support me, came out knocking and everything, and I want to say, I did say it before, but I will keep saying it, thank you all very much. But I'm going to make a thing now, I bet you're thinking, oh my God, look what we've done with all those press. I'm sure you are thinking that, but can I tell you, just keep backing me. What they're saying wasn't what I said, but I don't need to say anything more. Anybody else that wants to talk about it, they can listen to my maiden speech, which everybody said was a good one, so, you know. So please do that. I don't want to take it anymore. I am moving above that. I am Michelle Obama, and when they go low, I go absolutely. So that's where I'm going. I want to say though, it's been true, it's been a baptism of fire, but you know, you need that. I'm a great believer, I have faith, I'm a Christian, so that's carrying me through as well. So, let me just say, is that I have been really blessed as well to be able to be your MP. I want to be able to do the best for this constituency. I have the best people backing me, supporting me. We talked about Bipinda, talked about Ian, Mohammed, all the others that were there in the audience. You're all backing me. Thank you so much. I won't disappoint you. I will be the MP that you want me to be. I am a very honest MP in that respect. I'm not a politician. I've said that before when I was a nurse, but I'm not. So there are going to be times when I tell it as it is, as I feel it is, and please be mindful that I'm not trying to discredit anybody, myself, or this constituency. I am thinking about the constituency whenever I'm doing it. So please, honestly and believe me, that I'm here for you and for all the 75,000 other constituency members that I have. So, what else can I say? Oh, hello. Hi. So, is that you? Oh, bless. Yeah. So, just to say...
sorry, no kissing babies tonight.
No kissing babies tonight. Well, I just thought she's lovely. Yeah, she did... Well, she did those lovely mints with her birthday party. Anyway, just to say that we... to get down to serious business, I did my maiden speech. I've been in Parliament. I wanted to see what it was like before I actually start asking questions, and I couldn't really do that until I did my maiden speech anyway. I've done that now. So I'm ready to start to work when I get back into Parliament. There's lots and lots of things I want to raise in Parliament on your behalf. And I want you also, could you also send me in stuff so that I can use when I'm standing up there and say, in my constituency, this person is having this issue. That's what I need. I need them from you. I'm lucky that I've got surgeries in Sainsbury's and Asda on the Fridays, and I'm going to, thank you Lord, we've actually got a constituency office which is going to be in Tettenhall Road, because what I want to be is an MP that's there for everybody. You're going to see it, it's going to be out there saying Labour MP Eleanor Smith, so people can come and any issues they have can bring them. My first surgery was last Saturday. That was amazing. It really was. I had Bipinda there with me. I've got the next one tomorrow in Asda. I have to be honest, unfortunately, because of the bad publicities, I'm going to have to get the police has been informed, so they're going to be around just for that added protection. Not only for myself, but I have to think about my staff and people around me as well. So we're going to have that, but they're going to be very discreet, so that's even better. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to when we get into our office, because it's going to be an open office, I'm going to be there. Oh, I didn't say as well, I'm actually moving in as well to Wolverhampton. Got a place, we're just sorting it out now. So the next couple of weeks, by at least the middle of August, I will be actually resident in Wolverhampton. So I can say that I am now a resident of Wolverhampton. This is now my home. For as long as you want me here, I will be here. So, I'm not going to go on anymore because I'm mindful of the time and that Emily has to go back on the train, and if they're anything like this evening, we need to make sure that she can get back. But I will do my utmost best to be the best MP that you have now. I can't speak of the future, but I can definitely talk about it now. Thank you all very much.
Another little highlight of the election campaign, I think any of us who were involved really was the incredible work that was done in St Peter's ward over the election, where basically the entirety, if you look at the election figures, the entirety of Eleanor's increased majority, came from St Peter's. I mean, obviously that's not, and this is a ward which was pretty much on its feet last year, on its back last year. And so I'd just like to mention our new constituency secretary, Mohammed Nassim, constituency chair, I beg your pardon, and our new treasurer, Abaida Ahmed, who, again, she can't be here tonight, she's in Pakistan with her family on holiday at the moment, both from St Peter's, and they did a fantastic job in St Peter's. Great campaign. People were literally running to the polling stations in St Peter's on election day. I make no word of a lie, they were determined that Eleanor was going to win. Colin, and if he can't be here tonight because I'll read you the message. Thank you so much for the invitation. I would love to have come, but I'm recovering from a major operation. I run out of steam very quickly. Travelling to Wolverhampton from the Cotswolds. He's from the Cotswolds. I can hear the words echoing round that weekend. To play a small part in enabling Eleanor to become your MP was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. Remember also, two other guys came to help from Telford and Welshpool respectively. I think they've put every single stake in the ground and massive poster up. That was Luke from Welshpool. I think it's actually Newtown, which is even a little bit further, but there we are. Several conversations with her demonstrated to me what an absolutely first-class candidate she was and what a brilliant MP she will be. A short plea. I live in a constituency with a Tory majority of 29,000. I saw no point in lining Tory dustbins with our leaflets. I consulted the momentum map of marginals and headed out to Wolverhampton South West. There I believe my friends and I from outside the area could well have made a small but significant difference. Eleanor, Emily, encourage party workers to make their presence known in marginals. This wins elections. Thank you, Chris. I'll skip over that one. And anyone who knows, this is Roger McKenzie. Anyone who knows him, he's active in the trade union movement, in anti-racist campaigning, in solidarity internationally with Cuba, with black people who struggle in the United States through the Black Lives Matter campaign. I'm a big fan, basically. And he also is good on the old jazz. So if you've got any recommendations, anything, anyone wants to know anything.
That's my whole speech.
My Assistant General Secretary, Roger McKenzie.
We lost the giants of the Labour movement yesterday, and I think we ought to acknowledge that. Mary Turner from the GMB. Late yesterday. Mary had been president of the GMB for more than 20 years, I think. Made an immense contribution to her own union, but also to the Labour Party as well, to the National Executive Committee, member of the Labour Party. Just an outstanding contribution to the Labour movement, an outstanding contribution just as a person who was prepared to stand up and talk about real things that were happening to real people. A dinner lady, who came from the kitchens of her school and spoke up for working people. And I just think we ought to acknowledge that while we're together. think quite often we spend a lot of time talking about our history in the labour movement and in the trade union movement, and we don't talk about the future and about the potential for the future. And one of the things that has really gladdened me so much is that we're actually talking about the future here today. We can look back on the general election and say what a great campaign it was, how many people got involved, new people got involved, how many people voted for the first time, how many people campaigned for the first time, how many people just started talking about politics for the first time without thinking it was a dirty word. You know, people started talking about real things that were happening to them within their communities and within their workplaces, and didn't feel that it was outrageous, some of the things that they were talking about, like that, you know, we should stand up for each other as working people. How radical is that? You know, that we should have a national health service that doesn't depend on how much money you've got in your pocket, but actually depends on your need. That doesn't sound pretty radical to me, right? It actually sounds really sensible to me. And the tragic events of the last few weeks, with that horrific fire in West London, where we saw the value of public services, where we saw the need for housing that people could afford, that was safe for people to live in. But we also saw what was happening to public service workers heading towards the fire when other people were trying to get away from it. And then we have the audacity of this government to turn around and say, we appreciate public service workers, and yet they can't even give our members a decent pay rise, can't even give our members more than 1%. And I raise this very deliberately because this isn't about just a celebration of things. This is about the direction that we want to take this country in. This is a new day now. This is a new day. This is about the time for hope. This is the time where we can inspire each other to go out onto the streets and talk with people, to go into workplaces and to talk about socialism and not have that like it's some dirty word. But I can tell you that you've got somebody as your Member of Parliament who's been doing that for years, who stood up in our union when it was difficult to do it and has raised difficult issues in our organisation, the first black president of Unison. No mean feat at all in a union of probably 20% or more of black members, where it's taken that long to get a black president of our organisation, where we've got more black people involved in our organisation now directly as a consequence of the work that Eleanor did, not just in the National Health Service but through the black self-organised structures within the union, but also sitting there on the National Executive Council of our union and having the arguments with people who say that this is a secondary issue, this issue of race. Well, I can tell you about a secondary issue. This very constituency, and you know all the stories, that this is the place of Enoch Powell. I'm told by Sandra this was the bloody building, apparently, you know, which I think is fantastic, right? Because I tell you, I was born and brought up in Walsall, just up the road, obviously the centre of the universe, and I know that's going to hurt you from Wolverhampton, right? But up the road there is that centre of the universe called Walsall, and I came here on a visit one time when I was growing up. Obviously not so very long ago because I'm really young, right, obviously. And I came here and I got chased through the streets not so very far from here by people with pillowcases pulled over their heads who thought that they were the Ku Klux Klan. Now, you'll remember the Steel Pulse song, the Ku Klux Klan, right? It was written because of what was happening in Wolverhampton and in Birmingham and in Walsall, where people thought that that sort of thing was all right. Well, I can tell you, one of the things that Emily's been dealing with is all the stuff around Brexit. Well, I can tell you, right, that in the run-up to that referendum, during the referendum and after the referendum, there has been a massive rise in racist attacks in this country. A massive rise. Where people feel able to come up to us in the street and say things to us that they haven't been able. I haven't heard some of the insults that I've had thrown at me since I was a little kid, right? Where a little kid came up to me at a railway station, Liverpool Street Station in London, little kid, and called me a name that I hadn't heard since I was about 7 years old, probably. And I'm thinking, Where did he learn that from? Well, he's learning it from a whole environment that's been created where people feel okay about saying this stuff. This has to be a new day, folks, where we stand up together as working people and say, not in our community, not in our workplaces. You will not get away with it, because we collectively will stand together and we will stop you. We will stop you from doing those things. You can't ever be talking about socialism. You can't ever have those conversations about socialism and start to say about how we're going to put the world right unless we have equality right at the cornerstone of what we're talking about. Because we have to be taking this thing seriously, what Jeremy and colleagues are talking about this is for the many and not the few. And the many doesn't mean the many except black people, or the many except women who are still struggling for equal pay after all these years, by the way. Right? It also means the men. It doesn't also mean the many and not LGBT who are suffering hell in many communities up and down this country, or disabled workers, or young workers who are struggling on zero-hour contracts. I'll tell you, this is about the many. No exclusions. This is about all of us. This is about ordinary working class people, and yes, let's use the word class, right? This is about working class people standing up together and saying, this is a new day. And we are not prepared to be divided against each other. You know, the sort of stuff that Trump comes along, Farage, the language that they create, sowing divisions between us. We see it in our workplaces all the time. You know, Eleanor would have seen the same as me, where after the referendum, going into a hospital, and the stories that I'm hearing from our members there, where they're telling us, you know, the day after the referendum, somebody came up to me and said, what are you still doing here? You know, a black person, what are you still doing here? What sort of society is that, where people feel able to do that? You know, all of our EU migrant members, who are being threatened with their very existence in this country. There simply would not be a national health service in this country without the contribution of migrant workers to our national health service. And we have to stand up for those things, because one of the things that I've learned in politics over the years, one of the things I've learned in trade unionism over the years, nobody does this stuff for us. Nobody can do this stuff for us. As brilliant as I think Emily is, as brilliant as I think Diane is, and all the abuse she had to put up with in recent times as well during that election campaign, as brilliant as I think my mate of 30 years, Jeremy Corbyn, is, right? Nobody on their own is going to do this thing for us. Jeremy, I think, would be the first to say this is about a movement. This is about a movement that's going to bring about a fundamental and irreversible shift in society in favour of working class people. That's what we should all be going out and organising for and arguing for, and being uncompromising about the need for that stuff, because no individual is going to do it. I think it was Alice Walker who always said that, you know, there's going to be no knight in shining armour who's going to come over the hill, you know, and rescue us. It's not like a film, you know, like a John Wayne film or something, you know, and at the last minute, when all seems lost, the cavalry's going to come over the hill just in the nick of time and rescue. So it's not going to be like that. It's going to be us standing together as working people. And I think that's the enthusiasm, the energy that it's given a lot of people at the moment, what's come out of that election, the hard work that went into that election, alongside the energy and the enthusiasm that people developed as the campaign went on. And it meant that people got elected who were prepared to stand up for those principles, not machine politicians. Hopefully we've seen the last of that sort of stuff, but people who've got at their heart all of those things that we stand up for, many of the things that we've been arguing for many years probably. People in this room probably thinking, I'll never see some of this stuff. Probably thinking, you know, this is stuff that I talked about 25, 30 years ago, and I'll probably never live to see it. This is the day. This is when it could happen. This is when we collectively could make this stuff happen. It will happen with our representatives, great representatives like Emily, like Eleanor, like Jeremy, Diane and the rest in Parliament. But most of all, it's going to happen because we'll go and knock doors. because we'll go and talk to people, not where it's easy and convenient, not just in those areas, but in places where they don't support us at the minute. You know, in those areas where we've said, we all know those areas where we think, a little bit racist in that area, not going to go there, a little bit difficult in that workplace, or in that bit of the workplace, not going to go there. I'd much rather spend my time talking to people who agree with me, because that's easy. Well, I'm an organiser, and I know you don't change anything unless you change the minds of the people who don't agree with you at the minute. That's what you have to do. And it's tough, and it's hard, and we'll sometimes fall out, and sometimes it'll be difficult because they'll tell us where to go, and where to stick our ideas. But if we keep going back, and we keep trying, we can win. And if we've learned anything at all during this election campaign, it's this. It's that when people tell you you can't win, as they did, didn't they? They said, you can't win. You're going to keep us out of power for 30 years, right? With these madcap ideas of nationalising the railway and decent housing for people and National Health Service, for God's sake, you know? All of those times when they say you can't do it, we know from this election that if you go out and you talk with people, if you go out and you engage people in conversation, you put our ideas for socialism to people, then people come back. And people come back to you in a positive way. And people engage with ideas. And people join us as well. A party of more than 500,000. A party of more than 500,000. Who would have thought that a little while ago? Right? A party of more than 500,000. A labour movement on the rise. And not just a labour movement stuck in the past, but a labour movement, a labour and trade union movement that's thinking about new ideas. A labour and trade union movement that's thinking ahead to the challenges that we face, not just today, but the massive challenges that we face over the next 5 and 10 years. And I just leave you with this. I've said it already, really, but I think it's worth repeating. We get nothing unless we stand together. Simple as that. If you really believe in the socialist politics that we're talking about, real change, irreversible, fundamental change in favour of working class people, this is our chance. This is our chance to bring about that change. We only will succeed if we do it together. Thank you very much for listening.
As if I make a bit of a cock up or say something stupid, I'm just waiting for it to come over. Oh, Ian, stop talking such bollocks. Which I'm reliably informed is now okay to say on primetime television by. So, Emily Thornberry, trained as a barrister, was the shadow Attorney General under Ed Miliband amongst other roles. Of whom Simon Danchuk said was the North London liberal elite. Now, as a sort of home counties white trash kind of bloke myself, never really been fond of North London liberal elites, but now I'm warming to them in that light. So, currently our Shadow Foreign Secretary and doing a fantastic job. For me, along with Barry Gardner, two people who just literally chew the Tories up and spit them out when they're on the television. Absolutely merciless and does it with a smile on her face. You know, that's and who can say the next leader of the Labour Party after Jeremy Corbyn, maybe? It's certainly been my vote, isn't it? Of course, as Jeremy said to, I think was it Peston or was it Evan Davis? He said, "I've got youth on my side." So, exactly. So you might be in your 40s by the time that opportunity comes around. Anyway, and then of course the next Prime Minister after Jeremy Corbyn as well. just one thing. I've got a little question here. On election night, we were all watching background at Ray Nixon's place at about 3 o'clock in the morning when the exit polls were looking good and everything. And one thing that stuck in my mind and a number of other people was Emily coming along the monitor from her constituency, and David Dimbleby looking is very, very much so slightly smug and and so forth. And as usual, Emily took him to pieces, completely. But we had the strong impression that I don't know. There was a bit of a sweep on it. Was it a couple of gin and tonics? Was it half a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, or was it something? No, obviously not. No. Anyway, our current Shadow Foreign Secretary, our next Foreign Secretary, and hopefully after that, the leader of the Labour Party, and sometime Prime Minister, Emily Thornberry.
I've learnt a few things tonight. I've learnt that when you come to Wolverhampton South West, come straight in and head for the lambs samosas, because they go like that. And then you get told afterwards that they're the best lambs samosas in Britain. Sorry you've missed them. You'll have to come back. I also learned that if you want to have a glass of wine, get Sandra to get it, because she gives you half a pint. So thank you very much. But I also learned that you guys are fighters. Well done. Congratulations. And thank you. I've heard it before as well, I've heard it about when they say, oh, you're never going to win, what you're doing, don't bother, go do something else, why bother, really, we do know better than you. They said it about my constituency, right? When I first stood, Islington South and Finsbury, I had absolutely no, the National Labour Party, there was absolutely no assistance at all. We were told we were a gone seat, and that essentially we should be going and helping somewhere else because we might as well just pack up our bags and go away. And we won with a majority of 484. And the Lib Dems, who I was fighting, came that night with a cake which said, congratulations, Bridget. They were so sure they'd won. And they took it to the count. And so, when we won, they had to pack it up, they had to put it away, they put it in the fridge, they put it in the Lib Dem office at the council, and then when they had their first Lib Dem meeting, the leader of the council said, well, not wasting that, so he brought the cake out, and forced them all to eat it, and guess what? It had gone rotten. We laughed. Hubris. You cannot take British people for granted. You cannot take them for granted. The fact of the matter is that when these elections started, they were all saying it's really just a question of how big a majority Theresa May gets. It's really just a question of how big her crown is. How many rubies will she have in it? How many sapphires will she have in it? How big No, it's not up to the Daily Mail to decide which government we have. It's not up to ITV. It's not up to, what are they called? The Star? The Express and Star. It's not up to any of them to say who it is that will be our government and who will be our MPs. The power is in our hands. Everybody has a little bit of power, but collectively, we have all the power. In a democracy, it's up to the people to decide which government they're going to have. And Theresa May said, listen, she said, obviously you can't have Jeremy Corbyn because of this, because of that, because of, all this nonsense. You have to have me because I'm strong and stable. I'm strong and stable. Do you remember all that? I mean, really, and she said, oh, you've got to, trust me. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do when we leave the European Union, but trust me because I'm strong and stable. I can't tell you what I'm going to do about the National Health Service because basically we've got this manifesto and the only numbers we've got in are the page numbers, and we're not prepared to tell you where any of the money's coming from. But trust me, I'm strong and stable. And what did the people say? They said no. And why did they say no? Because they said, we have had 7 years of austerity. We've had 7 years of you telling us that we have to cut back on the money, that we can't afford to have a National Health Service, we can't afford to have proper money going into our schools, we cannot afford to build housing that anyone can afford, because somehow or other we've got to not spend that money so that we have a strong economy so that we can spend the money on those things. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, and people are fed up with it. They're fed up with it because it doesn't work. Right? And what's been happening in the meantime? Whilst we've all been tightening our belts, whilst we've all been having our crucial services cut, whilst public service workers, although Philip Hammond may tell you that you're all overpaid, you know better than that, and I tell you what, this lady knows better than that. Of course public service workers are not overpaid, and then whilst they say that all of this is going on, people are saying, what is happening to our economy? Have you looked at how much the national debt is now? How can it be that we've been going through all these years of austerity and yet our national debt gets worse and worse? And you're supposed to be these great people when it comes to the economy. You cannot be trusted. You do not have any ideas. And what the people also heard, eventually, through people speaking truth, through people being real, through people listening to one another, people like yourself speaking to people on doorsteps, on street corners, and speaking to people in pubs and clubs, in your places of work, talking about what was needed, people began to hear. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. There is another way. There is another way. And that way is about us being one community, about us looking after each other, about us being one of the richest societies in the world. And in those circumstances, how can it be right that women who worked with Eleanor until a few weeks ago are going to food banks? It cannot be right that our National Health Service, which is one of the things that unites us all, can continue to struggle on the backs of people of goodwill, who give their time, who not only work over their shifts and are having, as Eleanor was telling me today, you're working 12 hours and then you work more. And you work for 3 weeks and then your pay packet runs out and you've got another week to go. And so you have to work another shift and you have to work another shift, and guess what? You get ill and then you're not available. And then places are understaffed and you get burnt out staff with not enough nurses on the wards, and people underpaid, and those very nurses needing to go to food banks. How can this be? This can't be right. And when you put it to strong and stable, what does she say? She says there are many complex reasons why people go to food banks. No, there aren't. There's one reason why people go to food banks. It's because you don't pay them enough money. And you take them for granted. And it's about time we said no. And the British people have said no. And so what have they done? So they've stripped out everything in relation to their manifesto. I mean, what have they got left? I don't know. They're not doing fox hunting anymore. What else are they not doing? I mean, honestly, I can't even remember what it was that they claimed they were going to do. They're not going to do any of it. But what they're going to do instead, who knows? And who knows how long they're going to be in government? Who knows? If anybody tells you they know how long this Tory government's going to go, they're lying. Right? Nobody knows. It might last a few weeks, it might last a few months, it might last a couple of years. Who knows? We know one thing. They will hold on to power. They will hold on to power because that's what the Tory party's about. Grab power, keep power, hold it tight. And we may have to break their fingers, to get them off and to get them out, and to get a decent government that's going to represent this country properly and all of this country and make sure that we look after the whole of this country. But it'll happen. And for those of us old enough to remember John Major, it sounds awfully similar, doesn't it? Do you remember when John Major, they were stumbling along, looking for ideas? I think he had the ideas hotline, didn't he, or something? Just like, ring us up, tell us something to do. Theresa May is there already. She's just been elected. So he already needs to have an ideas hotline in order to kind of think of what it is that she's going to do next. They're stumbling along. They have no idea. They're going to cling on to power as long as they can. And the longer they hold on, the worse it will be for them. Because the bigger the revenge that the British public will wreak on them, and good. We would rather have an election sooner than later. I'm sorry, guys, I know it's hard work, but we need a Labour government. We need another way. And we need another way from a Labour Party that is informed and educated by the people who we represent because we listen. And we need a Labour Party where the representatives of that Labour Party are authentic. People who have experience of life and who can bring that experience. When I first started, I went round my primary schools and I asked my kids, and these little kids, I was telling Eleanor about this yesterday, and you go around and sort of speaking to these 9 and 10-year-olds, and I was saying to them, so I'm an MP, what's an MP? That's very interesting. We have to answer to it. And then I would say, so how did I get my job? And some of them would say, oh, did you go to university? Did you get this degree? Did you do this? Did you do that? One of them even said, did you marry Tony Blair?
What was the answer?
My answer was, in fact, I want to be, if the people of Islington South and Finsbury will let me, I want to be the MP of Islington South and Finsbury for another 20 years. You're 9 years old. 30 is a pretty good age to be an MP. You are just as qualified as me to be an MP. Okay? There's no magic to this. What you need to be is you need to be able to listen to your community. I'm really pleased to hear that Eleanor's moving in here in August. And you listen to your community and you be a representative of your community, and then you be an advocate for your community. And you make sure that you have a true and authentic voice. And what people have talked to me about Eleanor, and I've from the few weeks that I've known her, it glows from me. But she's real. She's a true person. She says that she's honest. She is, and she'll get into trouble. But she's surrounded by friends, and you'll understand that. You'll understand that she'll get into trouble. Of course she will. Because instead of the polish, you get authenticity. And that's the important thing. You need to have people who are real. Because if you just end up with people who are all the same in Parliament, what kind of politics do you end up with? You don't end up with politics that represent real people's needs, real people's concerns, real people's lives. That's the secret. That's the secret. That's the essence of it. That's why when she said to me, "Will you come and speak in my constituency?" I'm not going to argue with her. My God. No, it's an honour. It's an honour to be here, and it's an honour to be here in support of a warm and honest woman who is going to do a fantastic job for this constituency. I mean, I'd like to say, congratulations to this constituency for winning for Labour. We need to win seats like this. And for the sake of my constituents as much as for you, we need a Labour government, and therefore we need seats like this to be Labour. But congratulations also for returning to Parliament. Such a great story you're making. Thank you very much. And then one last thing, if I might just say, because I was thinking about whether to talk about it or not, but I do think this is important as well. Because although, I understand and I agree with a lot of the analysis that we're talking about in terms of class tonight, and I understand that. But it's not just about that these days. It is also about generation. It's about different generations. Why is it the majority of people who are under 47 are now voting Labour? What is going on? It's because, frankly, the behaviour of my generation, your generation, some of the people here. If you think about it, we've got homes. If those of us who were lucky enough to go through college, university, we didn't end up getting saddled in debt. We had a chance to set up a family. We have pensions. We have this sort of security. We've eaten all the fish, we've killed all the tigers, we're heating up the planet as well, guys. But we are the irresponsible generation. We are a generation that has done so well. And we know in our hearts that the younger generation coming up behind us are not, unless something is done about it, going to have a world which is as good as the world that we inherited from our parents. And actually, this is another really important element to politics in Britain right now. We have to give the younger generation a chance. It doesn't matter what class they come from. They need to have a chance. And that, for me, is the most important thing, because we have to be, if ever we are to be anything as a progressive party, we have to be a party that offers hope. And offers hope to a younger generation. And that, for me, is the most important thing about this election, is that we have won that generation around, and I'm so pleased. We must keep them close. We must keep listening to them. And next time, guys, we'll be there. We'll be there.
If it's any consolation, I didn't get a Lancer motor either, and they are the best. They are the best in the country. I've tried a few. I think Dan will back me up on this as well. I think he's had carries the world over. I'm going to hand over now to our excellent new chair of the constituency party, Mohammed. He's a sort of calming influence. You'll get a little bit less of the nonsense than you get from me. We're going to open it up for a question and answer. So I'll be wandering around with the mic, but do as Mohammed says, because he's in charge now. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ian. I only knew about the agenda about 6:30, so I didn't know what I was doing. So I think we've got a bit of time. First of all, as the chairman of the CLP, I'd like to welcome our guests to Wolverhampton, this wonderful city. I think we're the centre of the universe, not we also. Especially St. Peter's, my ward. In terms of the general election, what's happened in the past, I'd like to congratulate every single one of the members of Wolverhampton South West CLP. Without your help and enthusiasm that you guys brought to the campaign, we wouldn't have won this seat. I remember before the general election, we were predicted to lose the seat by about 9 to 10%. And we were told that go and help North East or somewhere where we're most likely to win. But since I only came on board, Bapinda and the rest of the team and all the enthusiasm that you guys brought to the campaign, we've managed to win it with an even bigger majority than we had before. So thank you very much, everybody. We've got Emily, so I think everybody wants to ask questions to our guest speakers, so anybody has any questions that we can ask? Anyone?
My name's Jeanette, and I do live in Wolverhampton, and I did vote Labour. Just to what you mentioned about the employment law equality, you know, the big word is Brexit, and also my concern is what about, for example, the employment law? Has there been any discussions regarding that, and will it be lost?
So what we have said as Labour is that we expect all the rights that we have as a result of being in the European Union. And to be honest, what happened historically was that things would come from Europe, and politicians wouldn't necessarily admit that they were being forced to do it, and they would kind of try to give the public the impression that they just thought of it all by themselves. But actually, a lot of the law that is the most important employment rights do come from the European Union. And what we need to do is we need to not only, because we have two things we want. We want lock, stock and barrel from the European Union, all the rights that we got, and we don't want any compromise, and we don't want any sunset clauses or anything else. This is what we want. But also what we want is we don't want to be left behind. So we don't want the employment rights that we have right now brought over from Europe, and then for Europe to continue going forward, and for us to be left behind. So that's the important thing. So it's both of those things together is what we're demanding. And it's very, very important that we keep those rights, and also that we keep a strong connection with the European Court of Human Rights, because a lot of our rights have been won through that as well.
Thank you.
Just on that one as well, because I think there's another dimension to this as well, and that is, we've actually got some of the most restrictive employment legislation anywhere, and one of the things that we see in our union, Unison is now one of the largest private sector unions as well, getting on for 200,000 members who work for private employers. And one of the things that we see is the way that they get treated, where employers very deliberately, after 11 months, get rid of people. And that can't be allowed to continue at all, where employers are very deliberately just getting shot at people because they can, because you've got no employment rights. No employment rights at all. So what we're saying is we also need a new deal for workers in this country. And that is not just Unison saying that, that's through the TUC as well, and that's a part of the TUC's discussions with...
And it's in the manifesto.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that was in the manifesto, is that people will get rights from day one. And the other thing is it's all very well having rights, but if you can't enforce it, then there's no point. So the amount that people are getting charged to take their cases to the industrial tribunals, that we have to stop that. We have to make sure people
equally as important are the issues around malpractice and making sure
the importance about malpractice not happening and how the employment law will protect that malpractice doesn't happen.
So the old-fashioned type of laws were ones where they were just basically break this law and you'll be in trouble. And then there's recently been a number of new laws that come in whereby there's a responsibility on employers, particularly public sector employers, to make sure that they don't ever cross the line. So it's their responsibility is to make sure that people are treated equally, that people are treated properly. And it's that series of new laws and that new way of thinking, which is, and the Human Rights Act is part of that as well. So the Human Rights Act, you have employers and the public sector has an obligation to ensure that they don't breach the Human Rights Act. They don't have to wait to get taken to court. Yeah. They have to make sure that their practice are the correct ones. And that is actually a new way of using laws. And as a lawyer, I find that really exciting. You know, the idea of using law to positively move our society on in the right direction, nudge it in the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was actually talking about employee malpractice.
Employee
malpractice. And making sure you don't understand.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. We've got the employment law.
There is the employment law about protection of employees, but equally, what about the concern if employees are not practicing as correctly as they should be? Does the law cover that as well?
So
will it for the future?
Okay, so people who are employed by whatever institution it is, that institution has an obligation to make sure that the employees are behaving properly and that they're not breaching things like the Human Rights Act, that they're not breaching the Equality Law, the Discrimination Acts, etc., etc. So it's the obligations on the institutions to make sure that their employees are behaving properly. So yes, that's the current law, and long may it last, and that's important.
Thank you.
There's one question I have to take issue with Jeremy Corbyn with, is why you were singing the press with an Arsenal shirt. I know you are Arsenal. Don't have your job.
Scandalous.
Yeah, absolute scandal. I'm not so optimistic about an early general election because if you look at the numbers, etc. But my question is, what bribes are not going to be taken by the DUP to support the government? Because, at the moment the DUP are obviously being bought out to guarantee, this buffer that they've got. So is there any areas where they can't be bribed? Because that's the only way there's going to be pressure on the government to call an election.
I mean, that DUP deal is an absolute disgrace on so many different levels. The first one being that, we have a responsibility to ensure that we continue to move forward in terms of peace in Northern Ireland. And what you don't do in Northern Ireland is you do not do deals behind closed doors with one section rather than another. You do not do that because the whole of the progress in Northern Ireland is all based on the idea of trust. And so what have we got now? We've got an executive. We've not been able to put power back into Northern Ireland because the executive has collapsed, right? They're all getting paid still, but they're not doing any work because the executive's collapsed, and we need to get a new deal in relation to getting the executive together. But it's not possible because the government who's negotiating with these guys is actually half of the people at the negotiating table are actually propping up the current government. So no wonder they're having problems. And we have an obligation. There's a huge amount of work went into the Good Friday Agreement, and it is hard, and it does need to keep being pushed in the right direction. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. These Tories will do anything to keep in power. So it's cost £1 billion so far. Some people argue £1.5 billion, whatever. £1.5 billion between friends, and they're supporting the Tories now. And then the question will be, when there's the next crisis, and the DUP say, oh, sorry, we're having a crisis of conscience. Well, no, thank you very much for the $1.5 billion, but actually we now need to have the George Best Airport, plated in gold. What are the Tories going to do? What are the Tories going to do? They have a choice, don't they? They have a choice between collapse of the government or giving out more money. But, I think the bigger problem for them, genuinely, is there is a substantial number of Tory backbenchers, and I would say about 80, who do not want to have any deal with Europe, who want us to walk off into the mid-Atlantic, who want us to be tough with Europe, to play hardball, who will deliberately harm our economy, and people will lose their jobs because we won't get a proper deal with Europe. And they won't vote for something which allows a deal with Europe. And that is going to be their problem. And personally, if I was putting any money on anything, I think that would be the cause of the fall of this government, because they are, we fight. I don't know if you've heard, but we fight, the Labour Party fights. And every time we fight, it's on the front page of every newspaper. The Tories are better at it, or at least have been until recently. At least they've always fought behind closed doors. Now we're getting the fights coming out. But actually, this is none of the fights. I mean, this, the thing about Europe kind of divides the Tory party. Like, I remember learning about the Tory party when I was doing A-levels, which was the Corn Laws. I mean, it is as major as that. And how they're ever going to hold the Tory party together and leave the European Union, I can't see it. I can't see it. There is, we fight, but our differences are nothing compared to the differences the Tories have, and we have to remember that.
In regards to the Express and Star, I will still say that I have said quite enough of it in my speech. Don't need to repeat it again, it's there. And how they approached me wasn't honest, to be fair, but I now know what not to do. But what I won't do in Parliament is be quiet, because that is where I can, under Parliament privilege, be able to say what I want. And they probably will write about it and this and that, but that at least it isn't something that it's out there in the open. Everybody will hear it, rather than it being just an individual who's put their spin on it. Okay? But I won't be quiet in Parliament, but I will be quiet to the Express and Star.
I think we as a CLP have learned quite a lot of things. We were only elected on Thursday night, and the whole story broke out on Friday. So we've learned quite a lot of stuff as well through the past few days. And I think we'll do a lessons learned exercise in future.
Do you mind if I just give some advice?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because I've been through a bit of this myself, I don't know if you know.
Stop tweeting.
There are people who stand out in Parliament, and sometimes they stand out for bad reasons. But actually, a lot of the people who get picked on are people who stand out for really good reasons. And they need to learn, and I've learned, to be careful, but always to continue to be brave.
I'm going to hand it back to Ian, who's going to go on.
I mean, I've got a couple of words to say on that. Anyone who's been in the party the last couple of years, and some other fellas had a bit of trouble with the press, I believe, over that period, and he turned out all right because he stuck to his guns and his principles, and we've done rather well with him. So I hopes on Eleanor's performance up to now that she will do the same.
Okay. Can I say a very thank you to... I was about to say that to you, Roger. I don't know now. No. Thank you, Roger. I've known Roger in the trade union movement. He's a very passionate speaker, as you can see and hear. And thank you for coming. He came and he also knocked on the doors as well. Thank you, brother. By the way, I'm his older sister. And Emily, can I come over to you, Emily? Thank you so much. I reached to her, I got myself at the second row of the, and every time I'm in Parliament, I put a prayer card in there so I could sit there. And I went to him and said, Emily, could you come and speak to us, please? She goes, oh yes. I says, well, you were supposed to come when the election and they put you away, so please. And she said yes, straight away. I wasn't even there for, a week.
If you had my back.
Yeah, and I say thank you. Again, inspirational. Everybody loved you, you can see that. And this won't be your only time. We will be inviting you again. Oh, Lancelot,
He said when Dennis Skinner went to Parliament, he wore his pit boots. So, Eleanor should have something like a nurse's watch that she can have as a touchstone to remind her where she came from. So I mentioned this to Eleanor and she said, oh, I lost it years ago. So that's the reason that tonight we're doing a little emergency package presentation of a number of things that an MP needs in order to survive in Westminster. That's yours. They include a box of After Eight mints, a set of makeup, absolutely essential, lipstick, eyeliner, and something else. A bottle of Prosecco, and some symbolic flowers. Those who of course know all about the flower symbolism. Red roses for passion, white carnations for good luck, and lilies for devotion. And lastly, before I start telling jokes, we're going to give Eleanor a Rotary Nurses fob watch. So, as I said, this is to the ladies in the room. The ladies of Italy, who know their men very, very well, say that one man is a man, 2 men are children, and 3 men are babies. Well, we managed to do a bit better because this team actually managed to work together for 6 weeks, and I commend everybody who worked on that general election campaign. Thank you all very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can say a few words, in that one of the guiding lights we had during the election campaign was, of course, Eleanor, because one of the things we saw with Eleanor was the fact that she is so dynamic, she's so available. She was running around all over the constituency doing a hell of a lot, and we saw that and we thought, this is our next MP. And that I think kept us going, didn't it? But the other thing, which I would say, which is behind Eleanor, is our friend Colin. And Colin was a great support and a great strength, not just to Eleanor, but to all of us. And since I think I've been elected as well, we've seen that as well. So thank you, Colin, as well.
Let's have another election. Thank you all very, very much. I don't know what to say, actually. Oh! That's what he did when I came in. Thank you all. Thank you, Emily, for coming, because I didn't know, you know, thank you. That's lovely.
Right, we are a little bit pressed for time as Emily's got to get back to the train station and Roger's got to get back to Oxford. Thank you all, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Daniel, for doing the filming tonight. That's we're all looking forward to that. That's brilliant. Give yourselves a huge big round of applause. We won this election together, and we will win the next general election together.
And it's the truth anyway. It's the truth. But actions, we all know that. We all know the actions.
Leslie was just saying, not fast.
I will though. She said,
I didn't see it. Because it was better for me. I've just I'm Diane's PPS.